Hello, my name is Joseph Binkard. When I'm online, I go by the name of EctoSage, and I live in West Melbourne, Florida. And I'm the one and only member of the Sage team. Now, when it comes to what roles each member in my group played, well, considering it was only me, I had to play all the roles. And as soon as I had heard about this weapon, or the idea that there was going to be a contest involving a weapon, I had this idea pop into my head of this really interesting rectangular barrel, or at least the opening of the barrel would be rectangular. And it was like a dual cannon, like an artillery thing almost. But of course, as I quickly read up on what the contest was going to entail, what we had to build, I quickly noticed that, well, that's not going to work. But why do I have to abandon the idea of this barrel? Why not take this barrel and then change it? And I very quickly noticed it could become something even cooler. And this was my concepting process. I quickly made a dozen iterations of this barrel, different types of it, different ways of connecting each of the barrels together to keep it from spinning apart, even different cut-ins into the barrel. And very quickly I came up with a design I liked. Then I moved on to the actual body of the gun and did the same thing. I would cut away at pieces of it, put pieces back in, came up with different ideas for these accelerator coils that would be on the sides of it, but originally maybe they would be in the base of the gun. Moved that all around and just concepted dozens of different things, but all in 3D. At this point I UV'd the whole gun, made a collage, exported that, and went into Photoshop really quickly with the UV layout there, and began putting in colors to get basically the feel of different portions, different parts of the gun. And at that point I carried on until I had the diffuse map. It was about this time I actually exported it and took it into CryEngine for the first time. Made a basic setup there, tried to figure out the materials, spent a lot of time going into the help documents because I've used CryEngine, well, never before. I've actually used Unreal Developer Kit a fair few times, but this was my first time using CryEngine. So I ended up spending a whole lot of time looking up documentation on CryEngine. But overall, it seemed relatively simple. A few things were different, but after I got the basic idea of how it works, I then went and built my normal maps, the glow map, the specular map, and I ensured that the alpha and diffuse would work as the actual setup for where my glowing colors should be. It was at this point that I went, finished off any more work I had to do in CryEngine, and went into actually designing the weapon logo, or at least the company's logo. I haven't actually put the logo on the gun, because I'm not exactly sure where it should go on a gun. Guns are mass-produced, sometimes the logos are hidden, and the logo for Sakura Sun I actually made pretty bright. And the idea behind this logo was the idea that Sakura is, I believe, a type of tree in Japan, or at least they have Sakura flowers. And they're 5-petaled flowers that are actually white. Of course, a white logo sometimes doesn't actually fit well, especially if it ends up stuck on a white piece of equipment or a white ship or something like the Avenger or anything like that that the logo might get stuck on. So I went with this sort of orangish red, which actually is inside the middle of the flower. On those little stems, I forget the actual name of the piece of the plant, but on those little stems coming out, they're orange, and it also fits the idea of the sun, because it's orange. I left the overall tone of it pretty bland, pretty base. I wouldn't exactly want to use the word bland, just so that way it could be put onto anything, because of course you don't want something heavily detailed with a lot of shading, because that'll often be lost on it needs to be easily recognized as, hey, this is a Sakura Sun product. Once I'd finished that, I moved on to creating the weapon's effect itself, which if you look at the weapon, you might notice there are 2 accelerator rails on basically the right side of the weapon or the left, depending on how you're looking at it. And these would accelerate the boson particles up to their maximum speed, and then they actually join up inside the main housing of the gun itself and are fired at the same time. And if you actually look at the weapon's effect, you can see that there is basically 2 little waves of these particles. The back one actually moves slightly faster than the front one, so it impacts it and deforms the actual shape of the particle cloud as it moves through the air, making more of a teardrop shape before it finally hits and disperses out to the sides, slightly curling back in on itself. At this point, I went back, read through your forums, ensured I had everything. I realized I had to make sure there was a place for a puck on the bottom of the gun, went and made sure that was added in. At that point, I considered the gun complete. So here you have it. The Class 1 Windfire EX Size 2, which is by Sakura Sun. All ready to go. As you would expect, I hope I win, but if I don't, I look forward to seeing all the other weapons out there. I'm sure there's a lot of very awesome stuff out there coming for this game, from you guys, of course, and also from your fans. This game truly looks to be amazing, and I really want to be part of it.